Okay, I think we'll get going. So I'm Earl Lane, the Executive Director of the AAAS Kavli Science Journalism Awards. So welcome to our ceremony celebrating the 2025 winners of these global awards, which are endowed by the Kavli Foundation. 55% of the 2025 entries came from outside the United States. And of the 16 awards, 7 went to journalists reporting for international outlets, 9 to reporters working or reporting to domestic outlets. So it's truly become a global award, and that's what we've been aiming for the last 5 years or so. There are winning entrants from Australia, Brazil, Canada, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, and the United Kingdom. So without further ado, let me introduce Robert Lee Holtz, who will be our moderator. He's a 3-time winner of the award and is a steadfast judge as well. He's worked with us for many years. Lee.
Well, thank you very much, Earl. I am steadfast, yes, steadfast. But I want to just start here for a minute by just saying thank you very much for joining us this evening. I really don't know of any award in journalism that sets the standard and supports it internationally in the way that these awards do. Now, I've been involved with them since 1977, and they really have done so much to set a standard for our much beleaguered craft. In fact, this standard is more important today than ever when, as we know, science and journalism together are under sustained assault. For all their differences, science and journalism are keystones of our public life. They root in common ground, a shared bedrock of honesty, transparency, and a sense of public service. They feed our appetite for information in the best and most important ways. But the journalism we honor tonight is, like the science it holds up to the light, critical, probing, explanatory, accurate, verifiable, unbiased, aspirational, and even, yes, joyous in the exposure and exploration of new knowledge about the world we inhabit and the consequences of our decisions. So there is so much here tonight worthy of our attention and applause. But I want to pause here just for a moment before digging into that. And I want us all to sort of note the heroic efforts of Earl Lane, who is hiding behind the plaques, and Emily Hughes, who is hiding in plain sight in the front. They cope with the enormous number of entries this year, which have grown over time from a few score to more than 1,100 this past year. And after 21 years of leading this effort, Earl is stepping back and turning directorship of the program over to Emily as the 2026 cycle gets underway this coming May. Thank you to both. It's really, really like a Herculean cleaning the stables sort of thing. So, Earl, by the way, is going to stay in an advisory role, so he will be looking over your shoulder, Emily. And just to take up the slack, they'll add another staffer. I'd like us now to take a moment to hear from Sadiq Parikh, the AAAS CEO and executive publisher of the Science family of journals. Now, as you may not know, Sudeep, in a way, masquerades as a scientist. He actually started as a journalism major at the University of North Carolina before coming to his senses and switching to material science. But he does truly understand what journalism is about and has been a strong advocate, I may say, for those awards, these awards, since joining AAAS in January 2020. Sudeep?
Thank you so much. And yeah, I was a journalism major. And the worst advice I ever got was I went to my counselor my sophomore year of college, and he said to me, why are you taking differential equations and linear algebra? And I said, because I like it. And he said, maybe you shouldn't be a journalist. And I thought that was, looking back on it, that was the worst advice I ever got. There's no reason why a journalist shouldn't like mathematics. There's no reason why a mathematician shouldn't like journalism. Look, we are living in extraordinary times, both in the world of journalism and in the world of science. This is a moment when all those, these two crafts, these two really callings that are, I think, both essential to liberal democracy, are under threat. I think that is something that we have to both come to terms with, and then realize that makes what we do here tonight even more important. It makes making the community more important, of us as journalists, of us as scientists, of us as those all working together in the defense of liberal democracy. So I just want to recognize that and know that it's on my mind. It is on my mind. And it's hard and often frustrating to see the science under siege. And I see real risk to the incredible system of public and private enterprise that has given science such impact. And science journalists, you all, the role that you play in telling the stories, the role that you play in spreading the impact, the role that you play sometimes even in catalyzing collaboration, because somebody learns, a scientist learns of science through science journalism rather than through a scientific meeting. It is not just something that's important, it's essential. It's essential to the scientific enterprise. And when we're at our best, when we are absolutely at our best, science journalism not only explains the world around us and that joy that you talked about, it also holds scientists and institutions accountable. Now, one of the real surprises for me when I became the executive publisher of Science was that my own journalists can write mean things about me, hold me accountable, as they should be able to, as they absolutely should be able to. And I will fight for that right, even when sometimes I'm the target of their stories. I think that's important. And accurate science news is essential if political leaders are going to make sound, evidence-based choices about health policy, environmental protection, climate change, as we heard about today, and other important issues. These are the stories that matter. These are the stories that are going to change the course of humanity, and they're the stories that are going to change the course of our liberal democracy. So this award program has become a well-respected global contest thanks to the generous endowment and continuing support by the Kavli Foundation. I'm heartened every year by the quality and international reach of the winning entries. And what I know about the fact that we have this wonderful support from Kavli and the wonderful collaboration with Emily and Earl is that this is going to continue, because that is what is important. In times of strife, when there is danger, when there is challenge, showing up matters, continuing matters, doing the work matters. And so that's why I'm proud to be a true supporter of this award ceremony and of your work. And I will celebrate it. I will celebrate it every time. So congratulations to the 2025 winners. I look forward to celebrating their work. And before I turn it back over to Lee, I do want to share just a few words about Earl as well. When I talk about the fact that the AAAS is supportive of this, CEOs come and go. They do. Executive publishers come and go. There's continuity that is required. There's the steadfast word that we heard from Lee. And Earl has been that. And so if you haven't recognized the fact that support for this award, that passion for this award, the passion for journalism at the AAAS, organizations don't have feelings. They don't have emotions. Organizations don't have passion for things. Earl has passion for science journalism. Earl is the reason why the AAAS cares about science journalism. And so always recognize that organizations are passionless. People have the passion. So please join me in thanking Earl for his 2 decades of service and impact. It is incredibly meaningful to all of us. And then I look forward to celebrating the winners in this room. Thank you.
Now, if I may, I'd like to call Brooke Smith up for a moment. Brooke is Director for Science and Policy at the Kavli Foundation and a steadfast, that's our word for this evening, steadfast supporter of the awards program. Brooke, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so delighted to be here and to celebrate the winners and to celebrate science journalism in general. About 15 years ago, we at the Kavli Foundation endowed these awards so that they can exist in perpetuity. Our mission at the Kavli Foundation is to support science to benefit humanity. We do this primarily by funding basic research in the areas of astrophysics, nanoscience, and neuroscience. We also have a program in science and society, and we celebrate frontiers of discovery through the Kavli Prize. We support work at the interface of science and society, like journalism and the awards that we're recognizing here tonight. Our founder, Fred Kavli, was a Norwegian immigrant who built his American business successfully on the shoulders of basic science. He himself cared deeply about connecting science, and I don't just mean the products of science, I mean the process of how we do science, the people who do science, and the stories behind the science, more broadly with the wider world. And that's what led us to support these terrific awards 16 years ago. In this time of uncertainty and transition, as Sudeep mentioned, not just with science, with journalism, and many other things in this world, we do continue to deepen our own understanding of how we can connect people in science. And we know this is not about sharing the facts and sharing the data. We know it's about opening up windows into the process, whether that's the wonder of or challenges within the scientific enterprise, and genuinely connecting what science means to people's lives. All of your reporting that we celebrate tonight is doing this so beautifully, from focusing on personal stories about human embryos, to sharing the impact of fraud within academia, to highlighting fraud and misinterpretation of our government in their portrayal of science, to helping make sense of scientific findings, including exploring the age-old question of whether or not that glass of wine is good or bad for you, and providing a window into our natural worlds, whether that's birds or plants or even more. We are so excited to celebrate with you this evening. We're grateful for the work of the entire journalistic community, for all of you that are here in this room tonight, and especially to the award winners. We can't wait to raise a glass to you. And also, Earl, thank you so much for your leadership. We came into endowing these awards under Earl's leadership, and it's hard to imagine what it'll be like without Earl standing at the stage. Emily, we're excited about passing the baton to you, and thank you to you and to AAAS for championing this important work.
Okay, enough of us. Let's go, come on. It's time for us to meet the winners, people who are here who've made this evening the special thing it is. So, for excellence in science reporting for a small outlet, the Silver Award goes to Emily Kennard and Margaret Manto of Notice, which is a newsroom covering politics and policy in Washington. Now, Kennard and Manto first reported that a Make America Healthy Again commission report was, quote, rife with errors, from broken links to misstated conclusions, unquote. Now, 7 of the cited sources didn't even appear to exist at all. The AAAS Kavli judges praised the initiative of the young reporters in breaking a story that major news outlets subsequently felt compelled to follow up on, including a finding by the Washington Post that phantom studies in the report likely were generated by an artificial intelligence program. Now, Emily, Margaret, come on up.
Thank you so much to AAAS for recognizing our reporting on the MAHA report. We also want to thank our publication notice and the Albritton Journalism Institute, which brought us to DC for a 2-year fellowship, which is ending soon if anyone's hiring. And I want to give a huge thanks to Emily for volunteering to go through 512 citations with me.
I also want to shout out our editors who have been so supportive of work like this, especially Elise Foley, who edited this, and a shout out to the federal government for posting a 73-page scientific report that they assumed no one would read.
The Gold Award in science reporting for a small outlet goes to Callie McMurray of The Transmitter. She described what can happen when a scientist commits research fraud by manipulating data. She examined the impact not only on the scientist's career, but also the profound effects it can have on others in the same laboratory who may spend years trying to replicate the falsified research, unaware that the task is futile. McMurray described the case of a postdoc at the University of California, San Diego, whose research resulted in a paper in Cell, hard to beat that for a site, and an assistant professorship at the University of Utah, also nice on the resume. But UCSD trainees who tried to replicate the findings were stymied. McMurray described their sense of betrayal and loss of trust, as well as the career pressures that can lead to falsification, fabrication, or plagiarism of data. Callie, please.
Thank you so much for this honor. I want to thank all of the scientists who were so brave and honest in speaking with me about one of the hardest moments of their careers and how it continued to affect them. This story would not have been possible at all if they didn't speak up. I also want to thank my editor, Brady Huggett, for pushing me to make the story the best it can be. And thank you all so much.
Thank you, Callie. For excellence in science reporting, large outlet, the Silver Award goes to Tess McClure for her piece in The Guardian on the, quote, great abandonment, unquote, or what happens to the natural world when people, all of us, disappear. She described research by a specialist in global change ecology who's studying 30 villages across the Bulgarian countryside in different stages of abandonment. She has found that human presence, oddly enough, can make life possible for a vast array of species. Total abandonment, on the other hand, can sometimes have worse consequences for biodiversity than landscapes where some people remain. Quote, to harness the full environmental possibilities offered by the great abandonment, McClure writes, will require changing our conception of humanity's relationship to nature and understanding how our species can benefit ecosystems as well as harm them, unquote. Now, Tess, who is based in London, decided not to make the trip to Phoenix, citing concerns about the current US approach to entry visas. She also noted the carbon emissions cost of the flight as a consideration. So Tess, sadly, is not with us this evening, but her words, she has left a comment about this with us, and if you will forgive me, I will read her acceptance remarks. So from Tess, in her words, this award is such an honor, and I'd like to dedicate it to Gorgana Daskalova, the ecologist at the heart of the piece. She is representative of the many, many scientists who have been so patient in sharing their time and expertise with a random journalist. I would also like to thank the Guardian's biodiversity reporting team, who have transformed the way I report, write, and think about science. So says Tess. Tess, you can't hear us, but we applaud your accomplishment. The Gold Award for a science reporting large outlet goes to Marina Friedman, Rolvi Christian Topdal, Stian Espeland, and Ronald Hole Foskaret, Thomas Ianke, and Astrid Ruma Tviet for The Flames of Equinor, a data journalism project by the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. Now, this team looked at the practice of flaring, or burning off gas associated with oil drilling. Equinor, Norway's state-owned energy company, claims to be a world leader in curbing flaring, which releases heat-trapping carbon dioxide, which, if you follow the news, we're not supposed to worry about anymore. But that's this afternoon, who knows, tomorrow. Heat-trapping carbon dioxide. But the company, they determined, only reports on flaring at fields it operates, and not those where it is a partner. And this reporting team used their satellite imagery to estimate that 1.4 billion cubic meters of gas were burned off in 2023 at the fields where Equinor is a partner, compared to a mere 103 million cubic meters at fields where Equinor is the sole operator. Equinor says it flares, quote, far less than the industry average. The story notes, quote, but there is a lot of flaring Equinor doesn't talk about, unquote. Marina Friedman will accept the award for the team. Marina? Hi.
Thank you. It's an honor to accept this award on behalf of the team at the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. We're very grateful for the attention it brings to natural gas flaring, but as we've heard, this investigation wasn't just about flaring, it's also about accountability. Accessible science and open satellite data made it possible for us to hold Equinor accountable for the flaring that they didn't want to talk about. Today, both investigative climate journalism and open data face many challenges. When data is restricted and scientific voices are sidelined, we lose some of our most powerful tools to fight the climate crisis. So we want to thank AAAS and the Kavli Foundation for supporting critical science journalism. Thank you very much.
The Silver Award for Science Reporting in Depth goes to Jelmer Mommers and Thomas Oudman of De Correspondent newspaper in the Netherlands. They spent a year talking to Tim Lenton, a British professor of climate science, and Max Reitkirk, a Dutch professor of spatial ecology and climate change. Both conduct research on tipping points, moments when a small change can make a big difference as a natural system crosses a boundary and changes irreversibly. Lenton argues that crucial climate tipping points are foreseeable, and it is time to speak up forcefully. Reitkirk is still in doubt about what the future holds. Mommers and Oudman write that the power of science, quote, lies not in the knowledge and expertise of individual researchers. It lies in the fact that scientists formulate their ideas as precisely as possible and then check and criticize, question, and correct each other, unquote. Mommers and Oudman decided not to accept the travel grant associated with their award, citing the carbon cost of round-trip air travel to Phoenix. But they did send their acceptance comments. And if I'm again I will read them on their behalf. Quote, in their words, "We and our team are so grateful for this prize. We are really thankful to share this honor with so many great journalists. Our purpose in this story was to understand what tipping points really are. But in the process, we learned an even more valuable lesson about the value of diverse perspectives in science. Some politicians would like us to believe that climate science is an ideology. It is not. Science is made by scientists with a multitude of backgrounds and ideological upbringings. Together, they work towards greater knowledge. This is how humanity found consensus on the danger of climate change, and we dedicate this prize to all those scientists," unquote. Really remarkably well put. The Gold Award I'm sure they can hear that. The Gold Award for science reporting in depth goes to Anna Louis Sussman. I have to say, this is a very special moment for me, personally. I am, until recently, president of the Alicia Patterson Foundation, and the two have merged, the Alicia Patterson Foundation and the Fund for Investigative Journalism, which I'm now on the board of, because we fund independent reporting projects around the world. And increasingly, this sort of work, as exemplified by what Anna has accomplished, is what I believe some measure of the future of journalism now depends. So if I may stop departing from the script and go back, this goes to Anna Louise Sussman for a 3-part series in the New York Times on human embryos and the complex scientific, ethical, and legal questions that surround them. Sussman spent 2.5 years on the reporting project, which I want to give fair time to, also received support from the Pulitzer Center, as well as the Patterson Foundation. And she began this series with a description of her own experience with in vitro fertilization that led to the birth of her daughter. Quote, she said, "I'm now the parent of a toddler I love more than I could have imagined, and in possession of 6 remaining embryos, frozen and waiting for my decision on their fate," she wrote. And she added, quote, "I also am a journalist who covers reproduction, and I've reported on places where embryos figure prominently in ways that the public may not yet realize. Scientists are doing human embryo research that could, for example, help prevent miscarriages. Companies are pushing the boundaries of what kind of testing can be done on embryos in the name of optimizing future lives. Embryos are at the center of divorce cases that are part of the property dispute, part custody battle," unquote. And in richly detailed and balanced reporting, Sussman offered no easy answers to the questions that she posed. Now, I'm sorry that you couldn't bring your daughter with you tonight. But I understand she is upstairs with an ear infection. Now, I was on the judging panel for this award, and I had to recuse myself because of the funding conflict for the Patterson Foundation. But I see no need here, no conflict of interest that would make me recuse from applauding your work.
Yes, I know there are other freelancers in the audience, and funding from your organizations and ones like you is really invaluable. And there's going to, I think, as we see what's happening in our industry, there are going to be more and more freelancers who will need the support and the recognition and the financial recognition that comes with these kind of prizes. So thank you to the AAAS and the Kavli Foundation, and congratulations to everyone here. Like science, journalism is collaborative, but while scientists get to list their co-authors, a story's byline obscures the work of its many contributors. My thanks first and foremost go to everyone I interviewed, as well as to my editors, Alicia Whitmire and Mita Agrawal, who trusted me enough to assign this series and who shaped it along the way. To visuals editor Jesse Wender, who brought the story to life with incredible photography and layout. To Glynn Fox and Alex Ellerbeck for their rigorous fact-checking, and Tenzin Sagong for her research support. And thank you to my daughter, the little embryo who could. This award is for you.
The Silver Award for Magazine Reporting goes to Isabelle Groch for a piece in Canadian Geographic on the importance of mudflats south of Vancouver, British Columbia, for migrating sandpipers, and the discovery that the birds were using their hairy tongues to scrape a nutrient-rich biofilm off the surface of the mudflat. Western sandpipers, tiny but durable shorebirds, migrate thousands of miles each year from their overwintering areas as far south as Peru to their breeding grounds in Alaska, and they stop at just a handful of places along the way, including the Roberts Bank mudflats, about 22 miles south of Vancouver. Kroc wrote about the importance of the Roberts Bank stopover, both as a fueling station and as a rest area for birds. Isabelle, we have a plaque for you.
Thank you very much to the AAAS and the Kavli Foundation for this great honor, and to my editor at Canadian Geographic, Tom Lundy. This story began with the magic of watching tens of thousands of Western sandpipers feeding on mudflats that so many people dismiss as wastelands. This is a story about scientific curiosity, tenacity, about pushing boundaries to reveal what's the invisible, what we cannot see, and why it's important. I want to thank Bob Elner, who's a central character in my story, whose decades of research has transformed our understanding of mudflats as rich, productive ecosystems that are worth protecting as they face imminent threats from development, as the shorebirds that depend on those mudflats for their survival are also one of the fastest declining group of birds in the world. Thank you very much.
The Gold Award in the magazine category goes to Max G. Levy for a piece in Quanta, an online science magazine on the hidden world of electrostatic ecology. He lured readers in with a tale about a scientist, Victor Ortega Jimenez, who stumbled onto the electrostatic properties of spider webs while playing with his 4-year-old daughter. They were using a toy wand, which gathers static charges to levitate lightweight objects such as balloons. Perhaps others of you have played with such a toy. The sandbox sometime. When they decided to test the wand outdoors, Ortega Jimenez's daughter put the wand close to a spider web, and the wand attracted the web. Ortega Jimenez realized that a spider web might not just be a passive trap. It could move toward and attract its prey electrostatically. Now, bees can gather negatively charged pollen without brushing up against it, Levy wrote, and the charged relationship between air and insects appears to go both ways. Quote, honeybee swarms shed so many negative charges that they alter the electrical gradients around them, unquote, he noted. And the atmospheric charge resulting from a swarm of desert locusts rivals that of clouds and electrical storms. Max, come on up.
Thank you all. Thank you, Earl. Thank you, Emily. I want to thank, obviously, Kavli Foundation and AAAS for this honor to come up here with really talented journalists and producers who have done such impactful reporting and told just fascinating stories. I feel, honestly, like I have the best job in the world. I'm always so excited to work on the stories I work on. This story was no different because it really taps into my curiosity and other people's curiosity about nature and the world around us. And I know there's like this torrent of a lot of bad news around the world, but I think that leaning into that curiosity and trying to like infect other people with that curiosity is kind of the way out. Maybe that's naive, but that's how I feel. So anyway, I just want to thank you all. And also just last point, an extra shout out to those of you who write for kids. I think that some of you are going to come up and you all have written about like the Amazon and about the intelligence of plants for kids, and that sounds like so fun on its own, but also extremely noble to get kids excited about that and thinking about that. So just an extra shout out for that. So thank you to you all and to my editors and everything. Yeah, I appreciate it.
The Silver Award for Video Spot News Feature Reporting goes to Adam Cole of Howtown, a video podcast site, for his story on how dangerous could one beer be. In 1991, this is the background here, the CBS program 60 Minutes ran a segment suggesting that a glass of wine is good for your health. We all read that one. But in 2023, the World Health Organization issued a statement warning that, quote, no level of alcohol consumption is safe for our health, unquote. So what's going on? The Howtown video asks, is moderate drinking good or bad? Although many studies suggest that non-drinkers have higher mortality rates than those who consume 1 to 2 drinks a day, the data are skewed by the study design, one specialist told Cole. The non-drinkers group also includes ex-drinkers, she said, and ex-drinkers tend to be unhealthier due to their years of alcohol consumption. Some studies also failed to fully control for socioeconomic status, she wrote, which can play a major role in mortality rates. Put it all together, said Cole, quote, and you don't see any net benefit from drinking, unquote. So how dangerous is one beer? Well, there's growing agreement that even a little bit of alcohol can increase your risk of cancer and other diseases. But she said at moderate doses, it doesn't increase that risk. I mean, he said, Adam, that risk by that much? Adam? Adam, there we go. Pardon my garble.
No, that's all right. I should add, for anyone who's worried, that it's okay to have a drink tonight. I make Howtown with 2 other people, Joss Fong and Charlie Yunkin, so I have to eternally thank them for their patience with me. And you know, this is a YouTube channel. We've been around for about a year and a half, so it's so affirming to get this award. It really means a lot. And I'd also like to thank all the scientists who receive an email from a YouTube channel and reply.
Now, the Gold Award in video spot news feature reporting goes to Llewellyn Smith, Kelly Thompson, Robert Kerwin, and Chris Schmidt for their PBS Nova report, When Machines Prescribe, a look at the misuse of dangerous race science in clinical algorithms used to diagnose and treat patients. For many years, these algorithms incorporated equations grounded in outdated pseudoscience about racial differences. One example was the use of a corrective race factor in the algorithm used to calculate kidney function. Black patients were placed lower on lengthy waiting lists for kidney transplants, while lower than white patients. The disparity dates to a 1999 study that compared estimated kidney function with levels of creatinine, a waste product produced by muscles. Black participants had higher levels of creatinine for the same estimated kidney function. Without further investigation, the researchers accounted for this difference with the unsubstantiated claim that, quote, black persons have greater muscle mass than white persons, unquote, even though creatinine can also increase due to factors such as diet, medication, and dehydration. Llewellyn Smith is now a 3-time winner of the award. Llewellyn, welcome to the club. Robert, Kirwan, and Chris Schmidt will accept the award on behalf of the team.
It's an honor to accept this award for the production team and for the Nova series that we worked under and the fantastic team. I was asked to make a statement from the film's director, Lou Smith, who couldn't be here tonight. So his words: the goal of When Machines Prescribe was to create awareness for clinicians, medical researchers, and other professionals of the persistent dangers of unquestioned race-based medical algorithms. While no one has properly examined why and how racist myths continue to thrive in modern medicine, there's little doubt they continue to find purchase and safety in our current political climate. That is only to say, what we do as truth-seeking researchers, journalists, and storytellers is absolutely essential to the present moment. And I'm proud to have been part of this work with our dream team, producer Kelly Thompson, editor Rob Kerwin, myself, and assistant editor Danielle Myers, the same amazing filmmakers who delivered Poisoned Water, our documentary on the Flint water catastrophe, which won the AAAS Kavli Science Journalism Award in 2017. So thank you very much for recognizing our work.
Emily, do you want to come up and do the second table?
Can you? Yeah, all right. So, the Silver Award for video in-depth reporting goes to Cosima Danoritzer for the documentary Sense of Smell: In Search of the Lost Meaning, a documentary produced by Découpage and Galaxy for RTTV of France. The sense of smell in dogs, of course, is legendary, but humans can detect various odorants at the parts per trillion range. While not as good as a dog, we are much better than we think, Cosima recounts in her winning video. The film explores the extraordinary capacity, versatility, and crucial role of the human sense of smell. When we lose that sense, we lose an invisible but essential connection with the world around us. And researchers are also finding that odors are essential to the creation of our inner lives and memories and play a key role in our social interactions. Through analysis at the molecular level, scientists are beginning to glimpse some of the mysteries of odors and how they convey their messages. Cosima, please. Congratulations.
I'd like to thank the AAAS and Kavli for this great honor and encouragement, and also for the opportunity to come to Phoenix and maybe find the seed of a new story. Films are not made by just one person on their own, so I had the support of a great team, and I'd like to thank my producers, and also our broadcaster Arte, because I think they're doing a great job of keeping some quality science on public television where viewers can see it, including young people, children, and for free. And I think that's very important in this day and age. And last but not least, I'd like to thank this amazing community of smell scientists who are all over the world and who didn't get bored with my endless questions, and who opened smell flasks and labs and everything for our cameras, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, loss of smell has really become unfortunately, a real 21st century disability thanks to COVID. Often goes unremarked. This is an excellent documentary. The Gold Award for Video In-Depth Reporting goes to Gregor Chalovich, Derek Muller, and Zoe Harron of Versatium, an online YouTube site for how one company secretly poisoned the planet. In 1936, the DuPont Chemical Company set out to find a safer alternative to the gases used in refrigerators. And in the process of solving the problem, the company accidentally created a substance they called Teflon that was to be incorporated into a huge range of products, from nonstick cookware to gaskets and pipe sealants in nuclear facilities. Chemicals associated with Teflon manufacture, including so-called forever chemicals such as PFAS, have been released into the environment and are, quote, slowly poisoning everyone on the planet, including me, unquote, said narrator Derek Muller, the Australia-based founder of the Veritasium. Using publicly available documents, recordings, and third-party opinions, the filmmakers painstakingly described the chemistry behind the discovery and use of Teflon. After determining that 1 part per billion of a chemical called C8 in water, for instance, would be unsafe for humans to drink, DuPont found 1,600 parts per billion in wastewater it was releasing into a West Virginia creek. They didn't tell anybody. Quote, even though companies knew how dangerous these chemicals were 50 years ago, they decided not to inform the public and the regulators, unquote, Muller said. Gregor Chalovich is here from Zagreb, Croatia, to accept the award for the winners. Please, Gregor.
Thanks. I think when you think of a YouTube video like the one we made, you usually think of a guy who was lonely in his bedroom making it. And while I sure was lonely guy in bedroom making it, I also worked with such a wonderful and talented team at Veritasium, our YouTube channel. So although there are 3 names in this award, I'd love to dedicate it to more than 20 people who've worked on it in the channel. And also thank you to the AAAS for your steadfast support. I really try to get steadfast in there for you. I don't know if I used it right, but you've not only acknowledged our work, but also acknowledged the deep and profound impact that the forever chemicals have had on humans all over the world. So thank you.
The Silver Award for Audio Reporting goes to Ben Motley and Anand Jagatia for an episode of the BBC's Crowd Science program, which dealt with the listener's query on randomness. She wanted to help decorate her bathroom with a truly random pattern of floor tiles. The floor tiler tried several times, but the listener kept seeing what appeared to be patterns. Host Anand Jagatia told his listeners that intuitive sense only gets you so far. Quote, "If this home improvement project is going to succeed," he said, "we need to seek the help of a certified professional, a mathematician." There followed a lively, often funny journey into the world of randomness with the help of Hugo Dumenil-Copin, a math professor at the University of Geneva. He invited Jagatia to flip an imaginary coin 25 times and write down the sequence of heads and tails. And in guessing the sequence, Dumenil-Copin got just 7 wrong out of 25. Turns out, Jagatia had refrained from picking 4 heads or 4 tails in a row, figuring it was improbable that such a sequence would occur in a real coin toss. Dumenil-Copin said just such reluctance makes it easier for him to guess the probabilities. To generate a truly random pattern, Jagatia said, quote, "We have to understand what randomness actually is." And for that, the reporters visited physicists at the University of Geneva to learn how they can detect the truly random behavior of photons in the weird quantum world of the atom. Ben Motley will accept the award. Ben, please.
Thank you. At Crowd Science, which is a show we make for the BBC World Service, we have a real passion for bringing science to life for as wide an audience as possible, including people that might not actually think they're interested in science. And at the opening session tonight, there was a lot of talk about trust in science by the general public and how crucial it is that the public understand what scientists are doing. And I'm really proud of the small part that we're playing in that with our program, where we basically answer science questions from listeners around the world. This award is shared with Anand Jagatia. Anand has an amazing ability to be able to take any labyrinthine concept that a scientist throws at him and turn it into a 2-sentence explanation that seems to just always make sense. I also want to thank Kathy Edwards, who was our editor, for encouraging us to go down the rabbit hole we went down. And I also want to give special thanks to the scientists who contributed to the show. As an audio producer, when a quantum physicist says to you, "You know, I've always fancied hooking up the beam splitter to a synthesizer," then you know you're onto a winner. So thank you to them, and thanks to the AAAS and Kavli for this great honor. Thank you.
The Gold Award in audio goes to Flora Lichtman, Annette Heist, Paju Vange, and David Sanford for the LEAP series on Science Friday, a production of the Hypothesis Fund. The winning series profiled scientists willing to take big risks to push the boundaries of discovery. As host Flora Lichtman noted, each episode is an intimate profile of a scientist who was, or in some cases is, out on a limb, pursuing their most daring idea, even if it is risky or unpopular. Biochemist Katalin Kaurico spent decades at the University of Pennsylvania experimenting with mRNA, convinced that she could solve the problems that had kept it from being used as a therapeutic. Her methodical work was essentially dismissed by her colleagues, and as she told Lichtman, quote, "They thought I am crazy. They questioned my quality as a scientist," unquote. Now, her work, for which she won a Nobel Prize in 2023, laid the foundation for rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines that have saved so far millions of lives. Another episode on the work of biochemist Virginia Manley Yee explained her lifetime of trying to figure out what happens in the brains of people with neurodegenerative diseases. And she's made discoveries about Parkinson's, ALS, and Alzheimer's, and describes happiness as the key to her success. Annette Heist will accept the award on behalf of the team. Annette?
They tricked me. They were going to come.
It is your congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here. Thank you. I'm a behind-the-scenes person, so if my voice shakes, bear with me. Okay. I didn't think I cared about awards until I actually won one. Working hard at something you love with the best colleagues is its own reward. But because of this recognition, more people may hear these stories and be inspired by the brave, candid, funny, brilliant, irreverent, and undeterred scientists we had the absolute pleasure to profile. And that is the cherry on top of an already satisfying Sunday. Thank you so much. Thank you to my colleagues, Pajal Bengay, Flora Lickman, and David Sanford. We met some amazing, amazing people, and I'm so glad we got to tell their stories.
The Silver Award for Children's Science News, and I think actually this is the hardest one, personally, goes to Julia Diaz-Canero and Allison Shaw for Amazon Adventure in National Geographic Kids. The winning entry highlights the research of 4 scientists working to study and conserve some of the Amazon's 3 million species of animals and plants. Canero shares these projects with readers in the form of imagined journal entries from each scientist, complete with vibrant on-the-scene photography and fun science facts about the ecosystems on the Amazon. On the Jura River, which feeds into the Amazon, João Campos Silva counts black caiman, a large crocodilian, and in his journal entry, he recounts the time his boat capsized, a startling adventure that plunged him into the water with the Amazon River's largest predator. In Colombia, Fernando Trujillo dives with dolphins in a lagoon near the Guaviare River, another river that links to the Amazon. And while studying a family of Amazon River dolphins, Trujillo's lucky bandana falls off and is returned to the surface by one of the pink river dolphins. Julia Diaz-Canero, here from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and her editor, Allison Shaw, will accept their award. Julia and Allison?
Thank you so much. We're so honored to receive this award, and I truly believe that writing for kids is the best job in the world. So our story is about the people who've dedicated their lives to conserving species in and around the Amazon, in Peru, Colombia, and Brazil. Animals like you heard, including river dolphins, Andean bears, and the giant arapaima fish.
All of the scientists that we interviewed emphasized that they couldn't do their work without the help and the expertise of the local people, the local communities. So we'd like to dedicate this award to the scientists and the local communities who dedicate their lives and sometimes risk their lives to protect the Amazon. And I'd also like to thank Allison for bringing me on board to do this project. As a Brazilian, it's incredibly important to report on the Amazon, but there's often so much grim news coming from there, so it really felt like a privilege to do a story that would shed a positive light and ignite the passion of kids for that ecosystem. So thank you so much.
The Gold Award for Children's Science News goes to Avery Elizabeth Hurt for her story in Science News Explorers on Are Plants Intelligent? It seems to depend on how you define it. Research suggests that plants can communicate threats, recognize close kin, and adapt their responses to danger. But are they intelligent? And in her winning story, Avery Elizabeth Hurt talked to researchers, quote, working to get to the root of what's going on when plants act in ways we once thought only animals could, unquote. Scientists first observed plants communicating with each other in the 1980s, wrote Hurt. Two young researchers at Dartmouth College noticed that a damaged tree sent signals through the air to other trees, prompting them to release a chemical to repel attackers. More recent work from the University of California, Davis suggests that plants will respond even better to messages from their close kin. Hurt spoke to several plant scientists who hold varying opinions on, quote, plant intelligence theory, unquote, but how do we measure intelligence? How do we define it? And how does it even matter? However you describe it, concluded Hurt, quote, scientists are learning that plants are far more amazing than most people realize. Avery had a family emergency and sadly had to cancel her flights, so she cannot be with us here this evening, but she did send her acceptance remarks, and it will be an honor for me to read them to you. In her words, I regret that I could not be here in person to accept this award, but I would like to thank the AAAS for this honor, and especially for including a category for children's news. It has never been more important to help children understand and cherish science, and to nurture a new generation of well-educated and well-informed citizens. I would also like to thank Janet Raloff, Jill Sakai, and the rest of the team at Science News Explorers for respecting the intelligence of young readers and encouraging their curiosity. Thank you again for this incredible honor. And I'm sure that she's listening and that she'll hear us as we give her and all our other winners a round of applause. You all have done such incredible work, and I think this is our opportunity to adjourn and go to the reception area for food and drinks, toast each other, and really, test out that question we were wondering about earlier about the true cost of that one beer or one glass of wine. I'd like to give that a stress test. Anyway, we do ask that the winners stay for a minute so we can get a group photograph, and just a few housekeeping announcements for the winners. So again, thank you all very, very much. And again, congratulations.